This is a Dubai Eye 103.8 podcast. Life Balance on Afternoons with Hellen Farmer.
Joining us on the line now is Toni Hughes, Senior Partner at Finsbury Associates, aka MrMoneySmart, who will be shedding some light on living that way and answering your questions too. Toni, how are you?
Very good, Helen. Yourself?
Yeah, really well, really well. It was great to talk to Anthony about him really taking control of a situation that could have easily spiralled completely out of control. And, you know, the money he was talking about, 350 plus thousand dirhams of debt on his credit cards, loans, hugely intimidating figure. But by breaking it down, he's managed to overcome, to prioritise, to put a plan in place. And as you are always saying, to communicate with his bank and get an understanding that, yes, they want that money back. They want him to ultimately keep on contributing and chipping away at that number. And I think it's a really important story to hear, to be honest. So is it possible for many of us to get rid of our credit cards? Is Anthony a unicorn?
He is a kind of a unicorn because he's done it so well. And I was listening to the whole interview and it was fantastic to see how well he's done and reducing that debt and keeping it down. I do believe everybody can do it, but unfortunately, a lot of people love credit cards and a lot of people love debt because it's borrowing off somebody else, isn't it? It's kind of your own windfall, and that's where we fall down because you're like, oh my gosh, you're going to give me a credit card of 30,000 dirhams. Excellent, I can go to the shops and go out and spend. So some people have that kind of way of thinking, and they think, oh well, it's only 2.25 or 3%, and that's not too much. But again, if you don't pay this credit card off every month, then you end up actually it's around 42% per year that you actually cost yourself. So it's scary.
It is scary, but it's something we need to face that fear head on because you say credit cards can spiral so quickly. How bad can it get? What are some of the extreme cases that you've seen in your time?
I've seen some cases where I talked to somebody a few years ago and the person had 6 credit cards, which is horrendous. And having 6 credit cards is just basically asking for more trouble. And these totaled up to about 550,000. And I think sometimes bank has to take responsibility. Mm-hmm. But as Anthony was saying, he said it's in bank's best interest to actually utilise the debit card rather than the credit card. Actually, it's not because banks charge a hefty amount for annual fees. Can be anything from 0 to up to 3,000 for an annual fee, and anything from 1% up to 3.49%. And that's not yearly; that's per month, so compounded up. So it is. You just have to understand a few things, and one of those things is, look, if you get, for example, a salary of 10,000 dirhams, then your credit card shouldn't be 30 or 40,000 dirhams. If anything, your credit card should be maximum of around 5,000 dirhams. And the reason being is if you decided to spend all of that money on the credit card one month, then at least you could pay it off that same month. And that's really, really important. And also, I suppose, if you've got that kind of mentality where you don't have any self-control, then don't have a credit card. It's as simple as that. And you can, as Anthony and yourself alluded to earlier, you can do a lot of things without credit card these days. Unfortunately, there are a few things that you still need a credit card, but there are a lot of things now that you can purchase without credit cards.
You mentioned there someone having 6 credit cards, which, I mean, my purse isn't big enough. But is it ever okay to have more than one credit card, and what would the potential benefits of that being?
It's okay to have as many credit cards as you want, as long as you understand exactly understand how they work, understand what you're actually paying for. So, are you paying an annual fee for them? Are you paying over the cost of interest for them? Look, let's be honest. At the end of the day, yes, debit cards give you certain enjoyments of different things that you can have, but so do credit cards. So as long as you understand, look, I need to pay this back every month no matter what, so you've not got any debt to the bank, then actually it's a good way of building up points, of utilising things like golf courses, movie tickets, things like that don't necessarily come with debit cards or debt cards. So that's really, really important to understand. And the more that you can understand that and do that, then it's better.
Let's hear now from Zahid, who says he's been debt-free since 2016 and it's all because of his dad.
I had seen my father, how he was struggling every month paying all his credit cards, all his loans, and in some cases, even getting calls from the collection teams of different banks. I did not want to go through that same suffering that I saw him going through. So from day one, I knew that this is how much I get every month in my bank account through my salary. How do I prioritize? So I think prioritizing is very important. My last debt was of a car. I paid it off. Saving is also important. It is not only essential that you stay debt-free. It is also important that you contribute a portion of your income for saving so you can fulfill your needs. It feels so good, so light. I have not had the pay cut in the current situation, but even if that happens, I am mentally prepared that I don't have any immediate commitment or liability towards anyone that I have to fulfill and that will impact me directly.
Well done, Zahid. Tony, fantastic to hear that. And as you're saying, it feels lighter. It does help you sleep at night. It really does.
It massively does. I mean, that's the thing about debt, isn't it? It can really drag you down, especially in times like we are in at the moment where people are getting 20, 30, 40, 50% cuts to their wage. And then they're like, how am I going to pay this debt back? How am I going to do this? And if you don't have any debt, and remember, there's good debt and bad debt. Mortgages are good debt. Credit cards are bad debt, especially if you're constantly not paying them off every month. Look, at the end of the day, all of us have credit cards. It's not all of us, but a lot of us have credit cards. And as long as we pay them off month by month, that's really, really important. And again, it's about self-control. And if you can, it's like taking me to a cake shop and saying, Tony, you can't have any cakes. It's not great for me. But credit cards are like that with people with money, aren't they?
It's very, 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 very tempting.
Exactly.
Going to the text line, Tony, no name on this one, saying, should I get a loan to pay off my credit card at 65,000?
Yes, I would definitely do that if you can't afford to pay that credit card off straight away. So, i.e., if your wage isn't 65,000 or more, and you can't afford that, and it's going to take you 1, 2, or 3 years or more to pay off, then a credit card, a loan will be a lot less hassle and also a lot less interest to pay off.
But no, Mr. No Name or Miss No Name, stop using the credit card after that point. Otherwise, it becomes a bit of a problem. James has been in touch saying, is it possible to pay off a credit card when you're no longer in the country? We're leaving and regrettably have 25,000 outstanding.
Yes, it is. So there are quite a few banks, obviously, as Anthony alluded to earlier, the banks want your money and they want you to pay it off. So they do obviously follow you up. So when you first sign up for a credit card, what you're asked to do is give an alternative home country number. So actually the banks will follow you up if you haven't paid that debt off. So it is possible and it's quite easy to do, and the banks will be chasing you or your emergency contact if you don't.
Okay, and James, wishing you all the best with your future plans. Anonymous message here saying we have school fees coming up, hopefully, in brackets, looking at 25,000 in one go. Savings have been wiped out recently. What's the best option? We do see some banks offering deals on credit cards for school fees. What are your thoughts on those, Tony?
My thoughts are to go to the school and ask them nicely. Most schools will do that if you ask them for a monthly payment plan rather than paying by terms. So, for example, if your school's 45,000 and then pay 15,000 every month. Okay. Or even over the course of the year. And a lot of schools will do that, especially now.
Because again, they want you money too. A message from Francis saying, I have a pension in the UK. I no longer pay into it as I've not lived there for over 20 years. Is it a good idea to have it transferred offshore? Or do better, as I'm not retiring in the UK, it will be Spain? Any advice for Francis, Tony?
I would love to say yes or no, but until you actually sit down with somebody, find out, it could be a final salary scheme, it could be a defined contribution scheme. We'd need to know exactly what it is. We'd need to know what other money's got, how much it's worth, things like that, and also how much the kind of transfer would be across. So there's a lot of different information. It could be yes, it could be no. I'm not trying to avoid the question.
No, but it's not as straightforward as we would like.
it's not as easy as just going, yes, do it, or no, don't do it.
And that is a testament to your honesty, and I appreciate that, sir. Sonia is saying, after listening to this, I'm going to cancel my just-in-case card. I paid off my cards and been paying monthly for some months now, and I feel so much lighter, especially during these uncertain times. And a question from Lee saying, the banks are after me because my ex-partner used my name to take out some credit cards and loans. Is there a way of explaining to the bank that it wasn't me, or do I just have to pay off her debt?
Yeah, unfortunately, I sat with somebody a week or so ago, and he and his wife unfortunately have separated, but all of the debt's under his name, and we spoke to a lawyer and banks about it, and unfortunately they don't care. It's whoever's taken that debt out is that they're following. So unfortunately, it's his remit to get done.
Oh, sorry about that, Lee. A number of messages today about credit cards, of course, and a lot of people inspired by hearing Anthony's story. Just to recap, if anyone is feeling overwhelmed by their credit card debt right now and, getting phone calls and, as you say, perhaps having pay cuts but still have the responsibilities of the outgoings, what's the best place to start?
The best place to start is sit down. I know you must think I'm boring because I always say the B word. Sit down and budget and work out actually what your costs are. I love the fact that Anthony sat down with his sister and said, right, okay, this is what I need to pay. So work out what you need to pay. And if your credit card is 65,000 or 40,000, whatever it is work out how much you can pay off. If you need to get a loan to cover that in the interim period and then pay down that debt. One thing that you need to definitely do, and nobody does it, or most people don't, and that is lower the credit card to the minimal that you can. So, for example, lower it down to 5,000 or cut it up completely. And that's the most important thing, because there's no point in paying all of this money down and then seeing something or convincing yourself,
and
swiping. I need to pay that. Yeah, exactly. And when I teach in schools, what I tend to say to the year 13s is, listen, I know everybody wants it now, and if you're buying an iPhone that costs, for example, 1,000 dirhams, if you're putting that on a credit card and you're paying that off over a certain amount of time, you'll end up paying an extra 500 dirhams for that. Whereas, wouldn't it be better to save up that cash and then buy it for 1,000 so you've not overpaid for that product, whatever it is?
Good for you, and good for you for inspiring the next generation too. Toni Hughes, Senior Partner at Finsbury Associates, always a pleasure, and thank you for all of your advice as ever. Stay well, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Helen. Take care.
You've been listening to a Dubai Eye 103.8 podcast. To enjoy lots more from Dubai Eye in the United Arab Emirates, just go to DubaiEye1038.com or find them wherever you normally get your podcasts.